Hey, what's happening? Hey, what's happening, folks? Welcome to Straight Shootin' Live. We definitely live.
We are definitely live.
We are definitely live. We came to you live tonight because we had an idea. Wanted to talk about not the Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports, because that's kind of been set in stone. Although I did find out today when I was researching for my secondary Mount Rushmore, which is the point of this topic, that not everyone really agrees on who the top four actually are. But we're thinking about it with, having a secondary Mount Rushmore, the conversations that would be involved and who you're picking, who you're leaving off. Be a perfect time to engage you, the audience, and hear your guys' stuff, because we've seen your guys' comments throughout, all the stuff on Detroit Sports Nation. And, we know that a lot of you know about sports as well. You have your favorites and you guys want to jump in. So we figure this is the perfect time to invite you guys to join us in this discussion as we fight our way through, because I'm sure we're going to have some arguments, AJ.
Oh, we will probably have plenty of arguments. Yeah. Plenty of arguments. And I am excited. I'm really interested to hear how there isn't really congruence, because when we started talking about this topic, we had congruence. We were like, these are the four guys.
We had congruence, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we did. But now knowing and understanding that maybe in the Detroit sports landscape, there isn't a consensus top four, which when we read these names to you, it's really hard to see how they're not a consensus. But
so this is what I
understand. So get into that a little bit for us. Why is there not a consensus?
Well, there's a consensus 3. It's the fourth, where it's...
I know who that fourth is.
I'm sure you do. So it's an older generation versus, I think, a newer generation. But it's funny because that newer generation is now considered an older generation to today's newer generation. Yes, Jeff, absolutely. Matthew Stafford, definitely number one on Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports.
He would be number one if Paul Rochon was on the show, but he is not. He's on different shows, and his opinion does not matter in this discussion. But so what are the three consensus? What's the top three?
Since I think give me one of them.
I believe that on the Detroit sports landscape, Mount Primary, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Primary, Ty Cobb.
Okay, absolutely. Ty Cobb is one of them. Barry Sanders for the football side is one 100%. Of them. Gordie Howe for the hockey 100%. Side is one of them. Those three. And Brian, I see your question, and we will get to that.
Yes.
But the fourth, I thought it was a deadlock. It's Isaiah Thomas.
That's what I thought too.
Leader of the Bad Boys.
For
back-to-back champions. I thought it was a wrap that is your fourth. But the sports historians out there have an older athlete in one Joe Louis.
Interesting.
So
now, I think because of the waning popularity of boxing and because those NBA championships that Zeke did bring to the Motor City, you have a lot of people in our generation, like when I was 2 years old, Isaiah Thomas was like, that was the name I said, right? Isaiah Thomas. He was one of my favorite players. My grandma used to tell me, you used to run around saying Isaiah Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, because he was big. So for me, Isaiah Thomas makes sense. Joe Louis, integral part to the city's history, but somewhat forgotten. And maybe that's because of the waning popularity of boxing. Who knows, right?
All right, AJ, is this the time that I let Brian know that I'm the guy that said we should take Malik Willis at number 2?
You can, but Brian and I will both condemn you for that. Brian, if they don't take a defensive player number 2, and we'll get into our Mount Rushmore, but I do want to address Brian. If they don't take a defensive
any of your questions out there, anyone that's got questions that's not on the topic that we're on, if we can answer them, we absolutely will. So please throw them out there. Brian, thank you for this one. And yeah, AJ, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm with you.
That's fine. That's fine. But Brian, here's my thoughts, and it's something that I've been consistent with over the last, month. If Aiden Hutchinson is there at 2, you take Aiden Hutchinson. If Aiden Hutchinson is not there at 2, you look for any and every available suitor for that pick to gain more draft capital to then have a bevy of picks to pick defensive players with. My opinion, Brian, you don't even address the offensive side of the ball until at least the second round. The first
You went
2
earlier than I
picks,
thought.
potentially the first 3 picks should all be defensive players. And if you could finagle away to get a Nakobe Dean, I love that guy for some reason. He's like my guy in this draft. You find a way to get him. But let's Shane. Oh,
Shane's with you on the first part. He ain't with you on your
he
Michigan
agrees with me on the
homerism.
first part, but he does not agree with me on the Hutchinson thing.
He wants nothing to do with
which is
them block
interesting.
them waste of times.
Which is interesting. I would love to trade down for 2. I know that I would, but I do think that Hutchinson would be a pretty good pick at 2, to be honest with you. He didn't really come out of nowhere. He just got hurt towards the end of
came out of nowhere. He was
junior
nowhere near a
season.
top 10 pick to start the season.
But I think that's because he was coming off an injury a little bit, and then you have like the COVID stuff going on and all that. So and Michigan was not nationally. I know that we talk about this and we've debated it, but Michigan is not a nationally relevant program until this year. So, you
wanted that new blood of schools.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's get into this. Shane, I appreciate. Keep the comments coming, man. But listen. I love draft capital when you're rebuilding. So if you want to trade out of 2 instead of taking Hutchinson, Shane, I'll only be a little mad at it. I won't be big mad if they took like Malik Willis.
Anyway, newsflash for everyone out there: I don't want the Lions to be good next year. I want them to keep building draft capital so we have an actually contending team for years to come.
For sure.
Okay, hang on. Against Georgia, that man was double and triple teamed all day because Georgia knew that Michigan had one guy that could possibly wreck their offensive plans, and it was Aiden Hutchinson.
And really, the question
was on one-on-one, and he didn't do a thing.
That was
Aiden Hutchinson at least had 2 or 3 guys making sure he couldn't do a thing.
That was exactly what I was.
And I am not a Michigan fan. I'm green and white.
Matt is not. Clearly, I am a little bit of a Michigan fan, but I'm not. It is what it is. I really, really hope that they.
Don's on the attack for us. This is great.
I guess.
And Don, I will get to that about because we should do that about our Mount Rushmore of who we've seen play.
Yeah, for sure. We'll
Even better if we've seen them play live.
Tonight, it is the secondary Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports because our top 4, which we thought was a perennial, consensus top 4, was Cobb, Howe, Barry Sanders, and Isaiah Thomas.
Right. So that's where I'm going off of mine, by the way.
So am I. Okay. And I literally wrote top those 4 names. Those are our first 4. So what we're trying to establish tonight is who are the next 4? Who's 5, 6, 7, and 8? If we were to put together a second Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports athletes, who would those guys be? I have mine. I'm sure we probably have.
I'm sure we have at least 1 or 2 overlapping.
I would imagine that we would.
And for the record, these are athletes only. We are not talking coaches.
We are not talking coaches.
There's no coaches, no managers in this one. You're not going to hear anything about Izzo or Bo or Chuck Daly or anything like that. This is strictly players for this Mount Rushmore.
Shane really hates Hutchinson, so for his sake, I hope they don't draft him. But we'll see. I would prefer Hutchinson over Thibodeau, but again, I'm a draft capital guy, so give me draft capital guy. So, anyways, Brian says Dylan Larkin.
Maybe one day.
We'll see.
I hope one day.
That is definitely a name that, hopefully in 2030, 2035, when we do this again, we're putting that name on our.
That'd be great. That means Stanley Cups galore.
For sure. So, Matt, we've got our top 4, and I'm throwing the ball to you first.
Oh, you want me to say number 5 first?
I want you to say number 5.
Are we going 5 through 8 or 8 to 5?
We're going
5 to 8.
Go 5 to 8.
Okay.
And then we'll do honorable mentions.
All right. So my number 5 is the man that a lot of older generation have as the number 4, Joe Louis Barrow, the Brown Bomber. Moved to Detroit thanks to the KKK in 1926 at 12 years old. Great Depression hit. This man had 2 choices, gang life or boxing. Thank God he chose boxing. Began his amateur career at 17 years old, won the Detroit area Golden Gloves, and finished his amateur career at 50-4 with 43 knockouts. And then as a pro, AJ went 66-3, absolutely fighting through a period of boxing where white America was very sour on black boxers. They did not like Jack Johnson. They didn't like his style. They didn't like anything about him and were wary of having another black champion. So Joe Louis had to be better, cleaner, smarter than his white contemporaries and fight through a whole lot of crap to even get a title shot.
You're right.
He got those title shots, and along the way of fighting and defeating Max Schmeling in the rematch, becoming the first black national hero for America. Did you know the man also, by the way, helped desegregate the PGA?
I did not know that, but that is very interesting.
This man picked up boxing. He found out about it the week before the first Max Schmeling fight and fell in love with it and stayed in love with it and got a sponsor exemption as a celebrity in 1952 when the PGA was still, quote unquote, Caucasians only. And he was the first. He led to the opening of the doors. He helped start the first tee, which is for underprivileged youth to be able to play golf.
Love the first tee.
Look, there's a reason there's a big fist in the middle of the D.
You're right.
And this man absolutely belongs. If he's not on the first one for the newer generation, he belongs on the second one for our generation.
So when we did these, I had Joe Louis too, right? Iconic. Definitely a guy that has to be somewhere immortalized in this pantheon of Detroit athletes. Like you said, right? Became heavyweight champion, I believe, in 1937 when he beat the Cinderella Man, Jim Braddock.
Yep.
Right?
Knocked
and then
him
held
out.
on.
Man, never been knocked out.
No. And then held on to that title for 11 years and 8 months. He had 25 contenders challenge him for the heavyweight championship. And he, in 25 title contentions, he defended it and almost won by knockout in every single one. He knocked out his opponent in almost all 25 of those contending bouts. He is on my list too. Now, to be fair, when I ordered them, I just started writing names down. So Joe Louis is actually second on my list. It wasn't intentional to leave him in like 6, but I do definitely have him in my list at 6.
Can you imagine? This man fought 13 times in 1935. There's only 12 months. This man fought more than once a month for the year of 1935 to be named AP Athlete of the Year.
Yeah.
What this man fought through, what this man stood for, is unbelievable. And, Detroit should be honored to call this man, theirs. And
100%.
Clearly they were. They erected many things to this man. Got a statue, got an arena.
So, so Don brings up an interesting point. 1935 is one of the best years and Brian echoes it. One of the best years in Detroit sports history. Detroit was the first major sports city to hold all of the major sports championships, including the heavyweight boxing championship at one time. And there's actually a great book that talks about, Joe Louis leaving, was it Mississippi, Alabama? Can't remember off the top of my head. Alabama because of the KKK. But then you have another group, and Detroit was actually a very prominent place for the KKK around the 1930s and stuff like that with Hank Greenberg and all of those guys. But there's a great book called Terror in the City of Champions that kind of recounts all of their stories from the sports perspective and what was going on there. But then this other group that comes in and kind of creating terror in the city. Anyways, I digress on that one. I'm going to go to my number 5.
Okay.
And my number 5 is Mr. Tiger, Alkaline.
Okay.
You cannot think Tigers baseball. And truthfully, I understand that Ty Cobb is one of the greatest ever. So he's kind of in an era, right? He's kind of like above the echelon, right?
Yeah.
You really don't think Tigers baseball without thinking number 6 in right field, Alkaline. This man, over his career, a 92.9 WAR, 3,007 hits, 399 home runs. He batted for a 297 average, 1,582 RBIs, 18 All-Star games, 10-time Gold Glover, and he was the 1955 batting champion, and then obviously led the Detroit Tigers to that 1968 World Series. He also, during the 90s-ish, was on the television, I think Channel 4, when they broadcast Tigers games, next to George Kell calling games. This man is Detroit baseball. And so I would definitely, if there is a secondary Mount Rushmore and Ty Cobb is on the primary one, Alkaline has to be on the secondary one.
Well, folks, you're all about to witness the end of straight shooting because AJ, Alkaline's not on my secondary Mount Rushmore. He is an honorable mention.
Sure.
And he's probably the first honorable mention.
Unbelievable.
But
that's because you hate baseball, though. That's because you hate baseball, though.
That is not true.
Clearly, you hate baseball
whatsoever.
Do you have a baseball player on your?
I actually don't.
See, you hate baseball.
Well, no, but there's reasons behind it. Look, it was almost Alkaline. It was almost Hank Greenberg.
Okay, fair.
There were guys that I was looking at. I actually was looking at Hank Greenberg a little more than Alkaline.
Interesting.
For my secondary Mount Rushmore, but I will get to. Basically, it's number 8 for me, and you'll see where my head and heart went when we get there.
Okay.
But I understand why Alkaline's on yours, and I understand why plenty of Detroit fans believe that he absolutely should be, and I am not arguing that he shouldn't be. Just for the record, this is my personal secondary Mount Rushmore. I am not saying anything about anybody else's that they should have or shouldn't have Alkaline or any athlete on it if they believe that's what they believe. Yeah. Alkaline. Absolutely. Everything you said. And he is absolutely worthy of being on a Detroit sports Mount Rushmore. You got a Tigers one. Absolutely. He's absolutely one of the 4 on that, but he did not make my personal one. So am I starting number 6 or do you want to start? Oh, so your number 6 was actually technically Joe Louis because you just wrote them in order.
Right. And I do want to give people the opportunity too. If you got your own secondary Mount Rushmore, we've kind of gone over the prime. Drop them in the comments. We would love to see how you would rank Detroit sports athletes 5 through 8. Drop them in there so that we can see. I know there's a lot of NFL draft talk, which we can get to as well. I know somebody was mentioning taking Kyle Hamilton. Okay. Not something I want to do at the number 2 pick, but he is going to be a great talent. If we can maybe trade that pick and get a different one for Kyle Hamilton, that would be awesome. Matt, your number 6.
Like number 7, number 8.
Huh?
Fall back, grab me like number 7, number 8 instead.
Something like that. But so I've kind of already given 2, right? Because I gave Joe Louis as a tie with you. So I want to hear, to even things out, who's your number 6?
So my number 6, I'm sticking with boxing. And I'm going with the hitman, Thomas Hearns. Born in Tennessee, moved to Detroit when the man was 5 years old, trained under the godfather of Detroit boxing, Emmanuel Stewart, at the famous Kronk Gym. This man had 155-8 amateur record, including a Golden Gloves title. And then he started his professional career by knocking out his first 17 opponents. And then in 1980, at 28-0, ended the 4-year reign of champ Jose Cuevas. And then, if you know, legendary fights with Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, only adding to the Hitman's legacy, a 61-5 pro record, 48 wins by knockout, 6 world titles in 5 weight classes, Fighter of the Year in 1980 and 1984. And not only that, he's a fixture in Detroit, currently lives in Southfield.
Sure.
So has very much been involved in the world of sports in Detroit for a long time, is a multiple champion, and you will see throughout my Mount Rushmore, championships play a factor.
Oh, big
But
time. I think they
career as
do.
well and importance to Detroit plays a factor. And when his weight class was the be-all, end-all of boxing at that time period, when you think of the names that I just threw out there, and you go watch YouTube of his legendary fights, it's, to me, it was a no-brainer that I had to have the Hitman on my secondary Mount Rushmore.
It's interesting that you went boxing 5'6". Just given, like, and I understand, like, when those guys came about, like, boxing is much more prominent of a sport, but, like, I knew
Brian McKay knows what's up.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Back me there with the Motor City Cobra.
Look, I'm not gonna argue with you. Like, my man's a 6-time world champion, and what was his amateur record? 155 and what?
8. 155 and 8.
I appreciate dominance, and that was like
That's some dominance.
That's pretty good.
I mean, and you're 61 and 5 as a pro in an era that had Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard. Like,
yeah, that's. I mean, I would definitely
all
say
them cats. Like,
I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I would say that's pretty good.
Now, unfortunately, like you said, boxing has fallen off.
It has.
The rise of UFC definitely ate into the boxing fan, and boxing itself did itself no favors.
The corruption
The way that it handled business, and generally, boxing live and dies with the heavyweights. But in this time period of the 80s, where the heavyweights were, starting to come up, especially when Mike Tyson really started getting going, but that weight class carried boxing. And I imagine a lot of younger audiences have no idea who the Hitman is. And
you're right.
I feel sad about that, because they will thoroughly enjoy watching this man fight, because this man could hit and hit hard and wasn't afraid to stand there.
I do want to reach out to Don here. He said my top 5, but then only 4 names. So
I think he meant
your
top
4. Top 4. So that's good, top 4. But he puts Alkaline in the top 4, which is interesting.
Well,
I mean,
he's ignoring the reason for the conversation, Don. This is not our top 4. This is our second
4.
This man never pays attention when we talk, AJ.
That's okay. He's got a life and kids and a wife. He's got it all figured out. Give us your second 4. There you go, 6 through 10. Interesting.
Stevie, Greenberg,
2 hockey players.
Zeke, Joe Louis.
Interesting.
Okay, hang on. So he did mean his top 5. He hasn't given us whoever his 5th is, but he did mean his top 5.
I told you. But that's okay, Don. Just give us that number 5.
No, I want to know who number 5 is.
So really, Don has given us a top 9 list, which, we like to work in odd numbers when we're blogging and stuff. So good job. Oh, 5 was perfect segue, Don. Guess
Bobby
why?
Lane.
My number 7 is Bobby Lane.
Your number 7 is Bobby Lane.
My number 7 is Bobby Lane.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. He is like the Mount Rushmore, right? It's those that have impacted Detroit sports and deserve to be kind of immortalized.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a 3-time NFL champ, something we have not seen since he's been on the team. Over his career, he threw for 26,768 yards. He played 9 seasons in Detroit. 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. However, there is this little thing, a little urban legend known as the curse of Bobby Lane. And I think until that curse is broken, he should be immortalized above Detroit sports, looking down on it until the curse is broken. Now, if you don't know about the curse of Bobby Lane, it's basically this. They have a really good, the Lions in the 50s dominate football, along with another team that's called the Cleveland Browns. Like, football was way different back then, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a coach named Buddy Parker, right? And going into the 1958 season, Parker just up and quits in training camp. He's like, this is the worst team I have ever seen. I will not coach them. And he leaves. This was after he had traded for the quarterback from Green Bay. Okay, so he brought in Lane, or this quarterback from Green Bay, to kind of be competition for Lane. Well, Lane gets arrested during training camp for drunk driving, tells some people from the Detroit Athletic Club that he only had like 6 highballs and that his Southern Texas draw is why the police officer thought that he was drunk. And so he ends up getting traded. Now, there's a lot of people, this urban legend believes that because he brought so much success to Detroit, right? 3 NFL titles, can't call them Super Bowls, but 3 NFL championships, that because of that trade, much like the curse of the Bambino with the Red Sox, the Lions are now experiencing ineptitude for a long time.
Didn't Bobby also like verbally curse the Lions?
I believe there's a little bit of
Okay.
that too. So
That you
I
will
would
never
put
win
him.
another championship again.
Well, so that's why he needs to be on the Mount Rushmore, looking down, keeping watch over his curse until it's
No.
broken.
What?
Until it's broken.
No.
Yes, for
No,
sure.
this is about men revered by Detroit, not reviled.
He literally brought us the last football championship we may ever have
And
seen.
then cursed us to make sure we never win another one.
2 years before my father was born. So I'm telling you that this is until another, quarterback that we had. This may have been the best quarterback that the Lions had seen for a long time.
Oh, no, there's no May. It was.
And that's what I'm telling you. So we immortalize him. We immortalize him on the Mount Rushmore.
Random. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'm glad I don't sound like a 10-year-old
other
boy.
quarterback that you hinted to, Matthew Stafford, between Bobby Lane and him,
nobody. Rodney Peete, Scott Mitchell.
It's probably
no,
Scott Mitchell.
No,
it's
Dante
Dave
Culpepper.
Craig.
Yeah, Dante Culpepper. No, Joey Harrington. Oh
No.
wait.
No, we made damn sure it wasn't going to be Joey Harrington. The Lions did everything in their power to make sure that man wasn't going to be a professional.
You are 100% correct.
All right. Well, your number 7 disgusts me.
Why?
Because that man should not be revered in Detroit for cursing our city and making sure the football team never won again after he left.
Look, it's not his fault that they've had incompetent ownership. Andre Ware. Yeah, right.
Hang on. Didn't you just say it is his fault? Didn't you say this man's been cursing us for the last 60 years?
Listen, you can believe urban legends or you cannot believe urban legends. That's on you.
Okay.
But I'm saying his play on the field and the fact that he won us the last NFL championship immortalizes him until the next person wins us a Super Bowl, which I may never see. And I've kind of resigned myself to the fact, so it's okay.
Okay, well,
I did know that, Don. He threw 196 touchdowns and like 240-something INTs with less than 50% completion. But this is also when the forward pass was, it wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. So the fact that he threw for 26,000 yards was a pretty good.
I need you to go look up Otto Graham's numbers, that other team that you mentioned along with our Detroit Lions that was winning football games back then.
He played in Cleveland. They didn't matter. They literally reside in Ohio, which is never mind. We won't go there. Give me your number.
We might have Ohio fans.
I know. Give me your number 7.
Okay, my number 7 not only won 3 championships, but after he left, decided to come back and help us try to win some more, unlike yours. Okay. My number 7 is the captain. The captain. Who else? The longest reigning captain of any American sports team. Born in Cranbrook, British Columbia, 1983, first round pick by the new owner of the Detroit Red Wings, Mike Ilitch. I'm talking about, of course, Steve Yzerman. First 18-year-old to play in an All-Star game, second Rookie of the Year voting, named captain 3 years later. This man was a born scorer. 155 points in the 88-89 season. He was third behind Super Mario and Wayne Gretzky. But after Scotty Bowman took over in 93, the two had some very deep conversations about what kind of team he wanted to have around him and what kind of player the Yzerman wanted to be remembered as. And so Yzerman toned down the scoring and picked up being more of a leader.
Mhm.
Took us to our first Stanley Cup since 1966 in 1995. 2 years later, won us our first cup since 1955. Repeated the next year. Man's won the Conn Smythe. He's the 11th player to score 600 goals. He's won the Selke. He won us 3 Stanley Cups, with that third one coming in 2002. And by the time his career was done in 06, Stevie Y had spent 23 seasons in Detroit, AJ, 19 of them wearing the C. 8th all-time in regular season goals, 7th in assists, 8th in playoff scoring. He ranks 2nd in basically every Red Wing statistical category behind Gordie Howe, except for assists, where he is 1st. And after it is all said and done, he came back to our city to try and help us win some more championships, unlike your number 7, Bobby Lane, who left us with a curse high and dry.
You know what? You're going to keep on bringing this up, and that's fine. How many All-Stars did Yzerman have again? Did you read it?
I don't have that number in front of me.
I know it.
How many?
If you were to take a wild guess at how many All-Stars that man had, what would your guess be?
Honestly, I'm thinking it's lower than it should be, so I'm going to say 7. It's lower than 7.
Keep going.
What, you're telling me it's like 2? No, shut up.
I'm dead serious.
No. There's no way his only All-Star was his rookie year.
I'm looking on Hockey Reference right now, and it literally says one-time All-Star.
That's a bigger injustice than Cade Cunningham not winning Rookie of the Month for the month of March this year. That's the biggest injustice I've ever heard of in sports this past month, with Cade not being named Rookie of the Month. That's how big of an injustice. You're telling me Steve Yzerman is a one-time All-Star.
I mean, unless Hockey Reference is wrong, but
I think there's something wrong there, because I don't know how you are 3rd in scoring behind Yzerman and Mario Lemieux. Sorry,
he is Yzerman.
Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, and you don't make an All-Star game that year.
Listen, I'm just telling you what I'm reading, okay? I'm just telling you what I'm reading, and that is that
We're going to do some
Yzerman.
deep digging on this when we get off this show.
And that's fine. Listen.
I will personally go find Gary Bettman and egg this man's house.
Jason. Look at that. Look at his second.
So, Jason, I need reference. Is that your top 4 or your second 4?
Because Don went 1 through 10. So we want to make sure that this is your second 4. And
that to me looks like his top 4.
It does look like it could be a top 4.
But it might be a second. This man might be all baseball for that first 4, AJ. You might have found your kindred spirit there.
I would be totally okay with. I mean, I could tell you right now that that's his top 4. Okay. All right. Perfect.
So Jason, do a little digging. We want to hear your second 4.
Yeah, who would your 5, 6, 7, and 8 be? All right. But I think that's a great top 4 as well. Like, you really can't argue with that.
No.
Like, that would be an okay top 4. Clearly, cases could be made for all 4 of those guys to be the top 4 athletes of Detroit sports history. Not having Cobb on there, I do personally take a little bit of an issue with, just because, I mean, he is one of the greatest baseball players throughout history.
Yeah.
But again, that was also a very different baseball game that he played. So I have no problem. Like, that's very defensible. So
did you pull up that whack ass All-Star stat just to shut down my number 7?
No.
Okay.
Because my number 8 was Yzerman.
Okay.
So, like, you keep stealing mine for whatever reason.
Hey, you told me to go first. This is your fault.
Yeah, I know. I did. And honestly, like, when I get to my next honorable mention, you're going to see that, like, it's probably more of a, like, nostalgic slappy kind of thing that I put this guy in for honorable mention and almost put him ahead of Yzerman, but then I was like, don't be an idiot. Like, Yzerman, if he's not in the top 8, your list is wrong, right? So that's where I was like, Yzerman has got to be my number 8. So I've given you all 4 of mine.
Yeah.
Alkaline, Joe Louis, Bobby Lane, Steve Yzerman are my next 4. There you go. Alkaline, Howe, Hearns, and he went with Sparky. Now, see, we weren't going with coaches, but I love that anyway. Like, if we were to open it up to coaches, I think Sparky would be on this list somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be
hard not to put him on there.
It's very hard. I mean,
it is. But
no, it is.
Jason, I love that Sparky's in your top 8. Like, 100%, I love that. That's a good top 8. It's a great top 8.
I have no qualms with it.
Jason, applause, my man. Applause.
All right, well, I feel like I've talked too much, though, so I think you should give me one of your honorable mentions before I give you my number 8.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
yeah, so one of the person that I was like, do I go back and forth? And this might seem weird, okay?
Okay.
But I think if I explain it enough, I think it'll make sense. Mr. Big Shot, Chauncey Billups, who was a journeyman point guard, but spent his most amount of seasons in a Pistons uniform. He spent 8 seasons with the Pistons, clearly brought them. I mean, he was the glue that held everything together for that 2004 championship team. Without him, it would be very difficult to say they win that, right? I think that he was the de facto prominent leader of that go-to-work Pistons group. 42% field goal percentage, 40% three-point percentage, 16.5 points per game for his career in Detroit, 6.2 assists for his career in Detroit. Big shot after big shot. Just grew to love number 1 Chauncey Billups. And like that was my like junior and senior year of high school. I was at Michigan State when they beat the Lakers in Game 5, actually, for a football camp, and we got to watch it in the auditorium. And it was like I remember it like it was yesterday. Chauncey Billups is the central figure of that team, in my opinion, and I would put him on this just because he brought that championship back to Detroit. I mean, we had the Wings, right? They won 0-2, right? Hadn't had really great basketball teams since Isaiah, maybe a little bit with Grant Hill, but not much. And then Chauncey, man. So Chauncey is right on the outskirts, and he's my honorable mention.
Jason, I'm right there with you. I grew up with the 80s Tigers. I absolutely loved me Sparky Anderson.
Oh, yeah. Alan Trammell.
Manager. Yep.
Rob Deere. Travis Fryman. Mike Henneman, right? Like all those guys. I've got Mike Henneman starting action figure somewhere up here. But yeah, that 80s, that early 90s team, man, I love them.
All right, so before I absolutely tell you how much I love your pick of Chauncey at number 9, why not Ben Wallace?
Because I love Ben Wallace. And I thought that he was like, he embodied what that team was, but Chauncey led that team to where they got.
Okay.
And for me, championships matter. They both won the championship, but without Chauncey's leadership, I don't think they get that, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but if Chauncey's not on that team, I don't think that they beat the Lakers in 5. Jason, right there, my man. And right there. I actually traded a Miggy bobblehead at the stadium with somebody because they had the Lou bobblehead, and I wanted the Lou bobblehead. I was like, I don't want Miggy. Like, I love Miggy, but he's not my Tiger like Lou is. So I'm with you, Jason. Kindred spirits, man. Perfect.
All right, so I absolutely agree. I loved that when we got Chauncey. I watched Chauncey in college at Colorado. I've always been a fan of the deal from Park Hill. I've always loved this man, and I was stoked when he came to Detroit and the team that was built around him. And then that 2003 year where we brought Rashid in, I knew we had something special. And you are absolutely dead on that. And you know that Detroit feels the same way because you remember the reaction when he was shipped off for Allen Iverson.
That hurt me.
Oh,
and
God,
I was like, That
Oh,
was
it
what?
hurts.
Oh, was that 09?
07, 08, something like that. Yeah. 08, 09,
Yeah.
somewhere right around
So
there.
I'm
Yeah.
not even in Detroit at that time. I'm away at college. I hear he gets traded, and I'm like, no, my team's gone. Right? Like
Yeah.
that can't have like that. Like physically hurt.
No, it
'Cause I
hurt.
was like, oh man, I was so mad. I
So
was
I like what
so
you're
mad.
thinking, though, with basketball as
I
one of
know
your
where you're
picks.
going. I almost can guarantee I know where you're
You
going.
know where I'm going.
Let me guess and tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Bill Lambier.
No.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Right team, wrong player.
Joe Dumars?
Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Joe D is who took my final spot because, look, this is a man that could flat out score the basketball.
Yes, he could.
You were talking about a guy who came out of he started late. This man, family of 6 boys. Boys all played football, which is where his head was. And then his head got taken off in a football hit, and he said, basketball sounds nice.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And went on to McNeese State, where he finished his career as the 11th leading scorer all time in college.
Jason agrees with you.
So when Joe D comes in 1985, we're getting the semblance of our basketball team.
Yeah.
And these guys are rough, they're tough, they're mean, they're dirty. And Joe D is none of those things. He might be rough, he might be tough. I'm not saying he's not tough.
Right.
This man is not dirty. He's not loud and brash. He tones down his scoring abilities to help the team dynamic because the Pistons, those bad boys, were a flat out team. The scoring was passed around and distributed evenly. A lot of guys swallowed their egos for what they could have got as personal numbers for that team to win. You're talking about the guy that Michael Jordan said was the most difficult defender I ever faced. The first NBA Finals MVP for our bad boys. Not Isaiah Thomas. In 1989, when the Pistons swept the Lakers, it was Joe Dumars who took home Finals MVP, averaging 27 points a game in those finals.
Right.
This man stuck around in Detroit well past when everyone else on his bad boys were long gone. Finished in 1999. And then 2 years later, named president of basketball operations for the Pistons, executive of the year in 02-03 and in 04. Watch the team that he helped assemble top of the Lakers one more time to bring home another championship. So in my mind, Joe Dumars is responsible for 3 NBA titles, and that is what vaulted him to be the last member of my second Mount Rushmore.
So how much stock do you put into the Basketball Reference top players of all time list, like for each individual team?
I honestly, I don't know if I've even looked at that. But
So
I imagine Joe's not near the top.
What?
I imagine Joe's not near the top. They have him third.
Yeah.
He's the 3rd greatest Piston of all time.
And you know who we agreed on was in like the top Mount Rushmore for Detroit sports?
Mm-hmm.
Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
You know where he ranks?
7. 4, right behind him.
So guess who's number 1, according to Basketball Reference, all time in Detroit Pistons history?
Is it Bing?
No.
It's not Dave Bing.
Bill Lambier. I'm serious, man. And look at this. Like, I can't even make this up. Oh, I switched tabs. But like,
what?
I can't even make this up. They chose a picture with him wearing a face mask. Literally. Like, come on. Like, what is going on here?
That's ridiculous.
When I saw that today, I was like, oh, I've got to bring that up to Matt because I want to hear, like, Bill Lambier was never even in the conversation for this Mount Rushmore because, but he's considered, according to Basketball Reference, let's be very clear about that, to be the best Piston of all time.
Look, Bill Lambier was ahead of his time. You put Bill Lambier in this era of basketball, and that man is a 25-point-per-game scorer.
I would agree.
Because he could shoot outside before shooting outside was popular for a big man.
Right.
He could body down low when he had to. He fought for rebounds. He played defense, both clean and dirty. Someone you love to have on your team and someone you absolutely hated facing. But he had talent. the man could put the ball in the basket.
For sure. Well, I mean, to the tune of 13 points per game for his career. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that because I thought you
that
would,
is very,
I thought you
very
would find that hilarious.
That is very, very funny. So, yeah. So, Joe Dumars rounds out my secondary Mount Rushmore because of what he did on the court, as well as what he helped build after his career was done. On top of the fact that the Walter Payton Man of the Year award in the NBA is the Joe Dumars award. Like, you're talking about one of the nicest guys
For
and one of
sure.
the most wholesome guys in all the sport.
Yeah.
Not that being a good person matters, but it adds a little something to it for me when you're not a complete and utter jerk.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
This is 3 championships, went 6 times to the Eastern Conference Finals for a team he helped build. It's just, to me, it was enough to get him over the other honorable mentions I had, like Alkaline, like Hank Greenberg, like Terry Sawchuk. And just because I wanted to see everyone lose their minds on the side there, I actually thought about throwing Matthew Stafford in there.
So, like, if I were to put one more person as an honorable mention to round out a top 10, it would be Hank Greenberg. And I didn't write it down, but, like, as we've been going through this, like, Greenberg would be my 10th all-time Detroit athlete.
I actually am a little surprised he wasn't in your secondary Mount Rushmore, because I know your affinity for this man. I know how much you've looked into this man in his life and his career to go along with the accolades that this man has. I mean, you talk about a guy who led the AL in home runs and RBIs 4 times. He's a 2-time World Series champion. Like, he's got the accolades to go with it.
But we also don't know what he could have been had he not lost a minimum of 2 seasons to World War II. And so, given number one, right, the fact that he was a Jewish ball player in a city that was very anti-Semitic at that time, that he was a phenomenal hitter, power hitter, and, stood for the morals that he believed in too, where he chose not to play on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. One year he was kind of forced into that decision because he broke his wrist, but then the next year he took it seriously and was like, I'm not gonna play, and I respect that. But he did bring World Series to Detroit, and I should know this, and I'm pretty sure that I'm correct, but I believe his team won the first World Series in Detroit. So they had 3 attempts prior to that in 1907 or 1906, 1907, and 1908. Lost all 3 of them, and then ultimately won with Hank. But yeah, Hank would definitely be up there, especially when, the Yankees wanted Hank, but they had another guy named Lou Gehrig. And when he saw Lou Gehrig, he was like, I'm not signing with the Yankees. And so but he was good enough to compete with the Gehrigs and the Roos, and he would definitely make my top 10.
Well, if anyone else out there has any they want to throw out, we'd love to hear them.
And we would love to talk about them as well.
In the meantime, we got to switch gears.
Let's switch gears a little bit because we have a little bit more to talk about.
Literally today, 25 years ago today, on this date, Tiger Woods finished his dominance of Augusta National.
And then got up to a microphone and said, well, I guess, hello world.
Yep.
Right?
Pretty much.
Dude. But that's why we love Tiger, right? He just says it. He doesn't really care. He knows that he's the best in the world. And he just is like, okay, I can say it and I can get away with it because I am the best in the world. But yes, 25 years ago. Sorry.
Right. So we just saw Scottie Scheffler just completely ascend this year. They've retooled the PGA scoring system for number 1 player and all that stuff. Otherwise, this never would have happened 20 years ago. You don't just because you win 4 out of your first 7 tournaments in a year doesn't mean you automatically vault to number 1 in the world. It does now. But back then that wasn't a thing. What Scottie has done reminded me a little bit of Tiger. Now, Scottie's a little bit older, but Tiger, throughout 96, he had 2 wins. And then 97, he won the Mercedes Open. So he had 3 wins under his belt. And he was one of the favorites going into those Masters. but there was still the question because the year before Masters, he didn't make the cut. So there was still the question of, is he deserving of the favorite? Can he really do this? And then he goes out on the front 9 and shoots a 40. Shoots 4 over, starts with an awful drive on 1 and bogeys. And then he backs that up with a 30.
Right.
Just 10 strokes better between 9s. No big deal.
No big deal.
And by the time Sunday was done, he is 12 strokes cleared of the next best guy for 18 under, a record of the Masters that still stands.
Yep.
He's 21 years old. It's essentially a rookie and a half season for this man.
Sure.
So it got me thinking about what else have I seen in sports that would be the equivalent to this kind of ascension. And I was thinking team sports. Magic as a rookie won finals MVP for the Lakers. But that's team sports. So I tried to go back to, some more. There's only so many individual ones. And this seems to be my theme of the night, AJ. But I went to Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. And him going up against Sonny Liston. Where
Jason, I was at that tournament. Matt, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, Buick Open?
I was at that tournament with you. Great. I was there on Saturday. Tiger was wearing his teal green shirt. We stood behind the 18th tee to watch him tee off. Like we watched him, followed him because he was in one of the later groups, and like he just pull hooked this 3-wood and just nailed somebody in the gallery down the fairway. We were like, "Oh, that's not good." But then we followed him up, watched him finish, and then took off. It was a exciting day. But anyways, go ahead. Cassius Clay, dominance early.
Yeah, and it not just the, hey, I'm here, bam, took out the big bad bear and shook up the world and made everyone eat their words. But after that, the continued dominance that Tiger followed suit in the same frame of mind, essentially, of just not letting people back in it. Tiger making them come after him again and again and again. If he got you on Sunday for a major, it was a wrap. Yeah. And it all started at Augusta 25 years ago by a 21-year-old phenom who literally changed the world of golf.
He did.
Forever.
He did. So that's your rookie dominance that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I went a different route because I did not think that you were going individual performances, which I'm okay with, right? Like I'm okay that we did it differently. Can you take a guess at who mine is?
For rookie dominance. Well, you're saying so it's a team, not an individual performance. I mean, it's definitely baseball related.
It is.
Is it the 84s? Not the Bless You
Boys?
Boys?
They all came up in 77.
Okay.
But or 79, around there.
Is it 06?
It's not 06 either.
You got me.
Friday is April 15th. And on April 15th, 1947, a man donning the jersey of 42 stepped onto a Major League Baseball field for the first time. And that day started a rookie season that was a pretty doggone good rookie season. Slash 297, 383, 427. Had 175 hits as a rookie. 12 of them being home runs. Scored 125 runs. And had 29 stolen bases. Winding up third in the MVP voting as the first African-American ball player in Major League Baseball to be ranked third in the MVP voting. He did and win the MVP his third year in the season, so I didn't look anywhere past 3 seasons. That's what I was looking at, was like early dominance, right? Like he won his World Series in 55, so year 8.
Right.
But Jackie Robinson was an impactful rookie on the field, but also off the field. And so when we talk about rookie dominance and rookie impact, my mind went to the field, but then I thought, nah, man, it is Wednesday before Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball. There is no other answer for me than Jackie Robinson. In In his third year, he won the batting title. He had 37 stolen bases, and he won MVP his third year in the season in the MLB.
You know who he served part of his time in the Army with?
Who?
Joe Louis.
There you go. Look, see? It all comes together. It all connects, man. It all connects.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. I like yours better than mine. I like yours better than mine.
Well, I'm glad that you like mine better than yours. I got to teach about Jackie today to my class.
Oh, nice.
And so, because I'm not going to get to see them on Friday because we're off school on Friday. So today and tomorrow I get to talk about Jackie Robinson, and will always be one of my favorite ball players. You know, he's only a 63 WAR over his career. So was he the best ever? No, he wasn't. But considering what he played with and played through, he's up there as one of the best and my favorites.
And he's also a heck of a lot of fun to watch. Anytime I watch a replay of what
Stole
he did.
home 19 times in his career. Stole home 19 times in his career.
Yeah, that's just nuts.
It is.
All right, AJ. I think we beat this one to death. I think we time to wrap it up.
I think it is.
I'm going to forget all the fans that joined us tonight, so I'm just going to say thank you all. We appreciate you guys' comments. We appreciate you guys joining in with us. It makes the show a heck of a lot better when you guys are able to give your opinions because we get to bounce off of them and get to engage you guys. It makes our show a heck of a lot more fun. We're going to try and do this more often, give you guys a little bit more heads up when we're going to do this so you guys can join us. We hope to see you guys on more of these Facebook Lives. He's AJ Reilly. I'm Matt Bassin. Don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere you can find us. That is Real Detroit Sports Nation on Instagram, Detroit Sports Nation on Facebook. Obviously, you're watching us on here, as well as YouTube, and DET Sports Nation on Twitter. We're straight shooting. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys again soon.